WrestleMania 22, Rosemont, Illinois, Allstate Arena. John Cena versus Triple H. Rey Mysterio Jr. taking on Randy Orton and Kurt Angle. Trish Stratus versus Mickie James. Edge versus Mick Foley. And surprisingly, Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon. Actually, some people think they stole the show. Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Match of the Year, if I remember correctly. And I'm with a person, a friend of mine, KARL Cotty. KARL, you were actually in attendance at WrestleMania 22. Is that correct?
Yes.
And KARL, how far of a distance did you travel to attend this show in person?
Oh, a couple minutes away, dude.
Oh, so it was really close to you. Okay, great. Was it literally like walking distance from your home at the time you could get there?
Oh no. I had to drive, a couple hours away. So.
Oh, okay, so it was a couple hours away. And who did you attend with, if I can ask?
It was me, my mom, my stepbrother, and a couple of my friends.
Cool. So it was a family affair, and that's, at its heart, not just WrestleMania, but any live pro wrestling show should be an evening that you can share with your family, your friends, whoever's into the wrestling. I've attended wrestling with various, groups of people, whether it's family, friends, myself, whoever. So I'm glad that your family was all into it. Are they as big a wrestling fan as you, KARL, or were you kind of the guiding force behind this adventure?
Yeah, two of my friends were. Yeah, I was like a huge fan of. Yeah, I've been watching ECW, WWE.
And this was at a time, if I'm not mistaken, that there was ECW was just getting going with this, right? Actually, WWE ECW was about a month away because the Edge Mick Foley match at this WrestleMania 2 card kind of helped inspire, storyline-wise at least, the reboot of ECW full-fledged. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Yeah, because what they did is they had already done One Night Stand 2005, and then the whole ECW thing was just a golden memory, and just it seemed like a one-off. And then at this WrestleMania, they did Edge versus Mick Foley. What did you think? Let's just jump ahead to that Edge and Mick Foley match, because that's one of the highlights of the show. When you saw that table and Edge lighting the table, what was going through your mind, KARL?
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, it's one of those like OMG moment. Yeah, it's like.
Was there a gust of heat? Like, could you actually feel the heat from the fire? Because that was legit fire.
Yeah, because I set up like real high, so yeah, I mean I could like smell like, the smoke from the tables.
It's crazy, man. That was it seems literally like, I don't know, more like 2 years ago or something, not 15 years ago. That show, I would watch that show. I might watch this podcast might inspire me to watch that show again, because it is in my top 5 WrestleManias, up there with, of course, 17. I give credit to WrestleMania 1 and 2 and 3, the early ones. But KARL, what are some of your memories of getting to the venue, the feeling of the crowd? Like, what was the buzz in the arena with the other fans? Describe that for us.
Oh, definitely the Triple H versus John Cena.
Was it as I remember watching on TV, that the fans were kind of booing both guys? At least that's the way it came across on television. Did it seem like both guys, or there's Triple H there from WrestleMania 22? Did both guys, when Triple H came out in that costume looking like Conan the Barbarian, and apparently he was in the running or trying to get the role of Conan the Barbarian in a remake of that classic Arnold film, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Do you remember what feelings or memories do you have of when Triple H came out for that main event?
Yeah, it was great. A great moment.
And then Cena, I believe, he had a bunch of guys. John Cena, of course, came out for the main event, and he had a bunch of guys in top hats, and I think CM Punk was ironically one of those guys, the young wrestlers, the young boys, as they would say in Japan. But what was that feeling when you saw Cena, and I think that might have been when he debuted, like his new. Could be wrong on that, but the case.
Yeah, it was great.
And what's your favorite match from that show, Carl? Because there's 5 or 6 matches that anybody could say was their favorite from WrestleMania 22, and you couldn't argue with any of those choices.
Oh, yeah. Probably like Rey Mysterio winning the world championship. Beating, like two of the top, well, Kurt Angle. Yeah, he had you pin Randy Orton for the win. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great one. And what's interesting about that, I believe that was for the World Heavyweight title, which is kind of the lineage big gold belt of the former WCW. Meanwhile, Cena and Triple H were wrestling for what I call the Bruno belt, the lineage WWE World title. And it's interesting that Ray winning that championship did not go on last. It went second to last. There was, I guess, still the truth today. There's always this wondering of which champ singles world title in WWE should go on last, and it seems like these days their solution is better, Reigns first, or Drew McIntyre's match first, or whoever the champion is. And so it's just kind of interesting that back then they tended to have those 2 world titles towards the end of the card, and they had a Playboy pillow fight kind of in between, sandwiched in between to break it up a little bit. There's another, speaking of women, it's almost like Goofy is a dog and Pluto is a dog, but Goofy's on 2 feet and talks, and Pluto's on 4 feet and wears a leash. And when we're comparing the Candice Michelle pillow fight versus really an epic women's match, Mickie James versus Trish Stratus, which had great storytelling. It had 2 women who could really go. They were comparable in size. And what did you think of that Mickie James Trish Stratus match, Carl?
Oh, it was great.
One moment that they tend to censor these days is when Mickie kind of did a somewhat vulgar or sexual innuendo-laced hand reference with Trish, touching Trish in a certain type of way. Where were you? How did you feel about that moment, Carl? Did you and your family have a good view of Mickie James's gesture? Carl, you okay there, buddy? Carl, Carl, you with me, man? So there was other great matches on the show. I'm not sure what happened to Carl here, our expert of WrestleMania 22. I will share with you folks my memories. I was just looking at the results. I totally blanked out that Viscera was in a battle royal to open the show. I totally blanked that out. I guess there was a Kane and Big Show tag team title match that came next. But just going off my memories, I mean, I really remember this show pretty well. I do remember Ric Flair being in the ladder match, and if you look at the third match on the card, Rob Van Dam defeated Bobby Lashley, Finlay, Matt Hardy, Ric Flair, and Shelton Benjamin in 12 minutes and 14 seconds in the Money in the Bank ladder match. That's before they started doing separate Money in the Bank pay-per-views. Bradshaw defeated Chris Benoit. It's interesting if you follow the trajectory of these wrestlers that I guess you could say that Benoit, he was kind of on his way down the card a little bit. At WrestleMania 20, of course, we remember him winning the world title in the main event. Here he is in the 4th match of this show, losing the U.S. title. Hey, Carl, did I lose you, buddy? I don't know what happened to our special expert. Carl, I hope he's okay. We had Edge and Mick Foley do a nice hardcore match, 14 minutes and 36 seconds. That's when Foley was kind of retired, but not retired. What Vince McMahon tends to call the let me up match. Again, Booker T never really got his full due at any WrestleMania that I can remember, unless I'm totally forgetting something, which is possible. But Booker T and Sharmell, Booker T having to lose a quick one to the Boogeyman that's listed as an intergender handicap match. I don't even remember that being a 2-on-1 match, but I guess it is. Kind of a slap in the face to Booker T. No offense to the Boogeyman. But I guess one of those gimmick matches. It just is what it is. The aforementioned, wow, it's interesting. Only 8 minutes and 48 seconds. It's listed on Wikipedia. Mickie James and Trish Stratus. I remember that being more like 20 minutes. Shawn Michaels defeats Mr. McMahon. No holds barred match. 18 minutes and 22 minutes. For what it's worth, Pro Wrestling Illustrated's match year, and give credit to Mr. McMahon. He really took an ass beating in this match. It wouldn't be his last WrestleMania match. He'd come back. I don't think it was the next year, but maybe a few years later to get his ass beat by Bret Hart again. Again, meaning another WrestleMania match where Mr. McMahon got beat up. Carl, you with me there, buddy? I'm not sure what happened to Carl. Really odd that Carl has disappeared on us, but that's okay. And then we had the aforementioned Rey Mysterio, Randy Orton, Kurt Angle match, triple threat match for the World Heavyweight title. Tori Wilson defeats Candice Michelle in the Playboy Pillow Fight match. And really 22 minutes and 2 seconds. And I do have that Triple H action figure. I mean, look, folks, you've heard me talk about my, admonishments or my anger with WWE, but at this time, I really didn't have that anger towards WWE, and I really did like this match. This John Cena defeated Triple H by submission. Of course, Triple H had lost at WrestleMania 20 to Chris Benoit in a triple threat along with Shawn Michaels. He had lost to Dave Bautista a year later at 21. It just seemed like Triple H was putting guys over left and right at WrestleMania. If you look at Triple H's WrestleMania record, to give him credit, Triple H has really put a lot of guys over at WrestleMania. Carl, do we have you back, buddy? Oh,
Yeah,
here we go.
sir.
Oh, it's okay,
Yeah,
but I worried about you, man. You all right?
Yeah.
Okay, Carl, throw in some thoughts about this WrestleMania. You had so many great matches. What were your thoughts? Give me some thoughts here, buddy.
Oh yeah, I think the Shawn Michaels versus Vince, that was a great match too.
Was there anything on the show that being in person, any aspect of the show behind the scenes or just being there live that you can tell us that maybe I didn't catch watching it at home on TV?
Oh, being there in person, it was, a lot of fun. Like, I mean, get a chance to like meet people in person.
I hear you, buddy. And are you excited for hopefully? Hey, I'm still wearing masks, folks. I don't know if you can see it. I got my little blue mask there. I've been COVID free. I've had friends that have passed away from this damn COVID thing. Friends have gotten sick, but I'm trying to stay healthy, man. Carl, has this COVID horrible thing? Has that? Are you looking forward to the time when we can go see wrestling live and in person again, buddy?
Yes.
Definitely, man. I've been going to the AEW shows, Dynamite, the last couple of weeks. I've been seeing Dynamite live. For the TV tapings, I was there when Shaq wrestled. I've got some exclusive videos on Mike Messier YouTube channel from AEW. And people are more than welcome to check that out. And Carl, I know that we got some new fans of Mike Messier YouTube channel. They'll be excited to know that I'm just upgrading my technology. Literally this weekend, as in tonight and tomorrow, I've got a friend out here who's going to help me upgrade my equipment. So you'll be seeing smoother cuts, smoother edits in the future. Bear with me, folks. I appreciate everybody's enthusiasm. What was nice about this WrestleMania 22, Carl, was that Big Daddy V Viscera won a battle royal, and I kind of forgot about that, but I'm going to have to watch WrestleMania 22 again. Were you a fan of Big Daddy V, Viscera, Mabel? Were you a fan of his?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was like so many different characters he played. Big Daddy V, Viscera.
He was a great guy. I got to meet him. We were supposed to work together in a film that was supposed to be a film of mine, and I had a scene for him, and he was going to play Felix in this script called Chris and the Coffee Girl, and I just felt so bad because, unfortunately, Big Daddy V passed away, and my friend Ox Baker was supposed to be in that movie too, and he passed away, so I haven't made that movie yet, and it's just tough, man, when people die. That's why we got to appreciate times like this, Carl, when we can do these videos and try to stay healthy and safe and wear our mask and all that crap, because we don't want to get this horrible pandemic, even now with these vaccines coming up. So just to get off the soapbox and go back to WrestleMania 22, So I found it very interesting and nice that your favorite match was Rey Mysterio Jr. winning the title. Were you and are you still a big Rey Mysterio Jr. fan, Carl?
Yeah.
And have you ever seen Starrcade 1990 from the NWA, Carl, WCW? Have you ever seen that show?
Oh yeah. I got tons of like WCW like DVDs.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that because you know who wrestles at Starrcade 1990. It's the original Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio's predecessor, the original Rey Mysterio, is in that international tag team tournament, and he teams up, I believe, with Conan. So if fans out there have been wondering their whole lives, hey, they say Rey Mysterio Jr. all the time, but who's the senior? It's actually not his father; it's his uncle. And the guy was more like 5'8", 5'9", maybe 5'10". I would say probably 5'8" or 5'9". Kind of like built like Taz, like just a fire plug of a guy. Not as short as Rey Mysterio Jr., but Ray's uncle is at Starrcade 90. Just as a little point of reference for everyone. Um, Carl, we're going to wrap things up here, buddy. But any final things you want to say about WrestleMania 22? The feeling you had when you left the venue with your family and all the other fans. What was the vibe like? What was the mood like for everyone leaving the show?
Oh, very good, very excited. Well, I did like the Shawn Michaels versus Vince fight. That was great.
They brought out the trash cans. They brought out a lot of crazy stuff for that one. And I'll be honest, Carl, this WrestleMania 22, there was a series for about 3 or 4 years. I had an apartment in Providence, Rhode Island, and I would host for about 3 or 4 years in a row. I would host WrestleMania parties, and they were small parties. But I remember for this particular evening, I had like two groups of people come over, and I watched like the original broadcast, and then I watched the replay right afterwards because different people were coming over to my apartment there. And I loved this WrestleMania 22. I mean, I think that as far as the WrestleManias of that era, like the post Attitude Era, like I guess what do they call the Ruthless Aggression Era? I think
Yeah.
WrestleMania 22 and WrestleMania 21. I don't think that WrestleMania 23 was as good. That had Shawn Michaels versus John Cena, which was a great match. I just don't think that the rest of the card was kind of dominated by that
Yeah.
Lashley thing with Mr. McMahon and Trump. And I just felt like WrestleMania 20, 21, and 22, even 19, I guess you'd call that Ruthless Aggression Era a little bit because Cena was there. Uh, but I felt all those WrestleManias were good. But of those like early half of the decade, 2000 decade manias, I'm very favorable towards the one that you saw in person, WrestleMania 22.
Yep.
And I think that if I'm not mistaken, is that the last time that WrestleMania has been in Chicago, Carl, or has there been one there since?
I think in WrestleMania 2, there was like all different locations. There was New York, LA, and Chicago.
Yeah, well, WrestleMania 2 is at the Rosemont Horizon. You're right. You're exactly right. And I know that WrestleMania 13, which was Brett and Austin in the I Quit match, and of course, it was really main evented by Sid and Undertaker. But I think most people, history has kind of made Brett and Austin the show stealer on that one. But I was just wondering out loud with you, since WrestleMania 22, as in after that one, have they returned to the Chicagoland area?
No, they haven't.
Big mistake on WWE's part in my book. I mean, I know that right now they're doing a lot of shows out of Orlando, and I appreciate that, being in Florida now myself. But I do feel like Chicago, maybe they're just sick of hearing the CM Punk chants or whatever, but I do feel like the WWE is a great wrestling town, and maybe that's why, to be honest, maybe they don't want to do a WrestleMania, as ridiculous as it might sound. If you're trotting out Dolph Ziggler or trotting out whoever, Roman Reigns, and you got people chanting for CM Punk in this day and age, maybe that's been a consideration. So I don't know, but Chicago's a great sports town. Are there other sports in Chicago that you like, Carl?
Yeah, hockey, baseball, you know, basketball and football.
It's pretty much everything. So I mean, you got the Chicago Blackhawks, the Chicago Bulls. Did you happen to watch the Last Dance series with Michael Jordan by any chance, Carl?
No.
Well, it's good. It was a great series on ESPN about the Chicago Bulls, the decade of dominance, and most especially their last season together when they had Rodman and Scottie Pippen and all those great guys, and of course Jordan and the coach. So, Carl, I guess I'm going to wrap things up, man. As usual, we went a little bit over our estimated time, but it's just so good talking to you, buddy. And I know we've got more videos. Maybe we'll do one about once a month. And Carl, you have a YouTube channel now too. You've been doing some top 10 lists of heavy metal music, I think. And
Yeah.
you want to plug your own channel? Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, it's Carl Henry Cotty.
And you've got some top 10 lists and some more information and fun videos and pop culture at its finest, Carl. So I want you to say hi to your family for me and your friends out there and send them our way to these videos. And as far as wrestling today, I think it's March 19th, 2021. I just watched this Britt Baker match with Thunder Rosa. I did a response video, reaction video. We've got the continuing sagas in AEW, WWE, of course, and some of these other feds. There was a premature death in the NWA. One of their top guys passed away, so we say a heartfelt thoughts for the NWA. But keep watching the Mike Messier YouTube channel for your pro wrestling rants, your pro wrestling memories. And Carl, thanks for being here, buddy.
You too.
Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. MikeMessier.com.